All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for being here.
Recording in progress.
Thank you. Call the meeting to order while the recording is in progress. And the first order of business is checking in with John.
Yeah, we're just all together because we just left Martin Road.
Right.
We're finishing up hopefully all our winter stuff, but we did get some trouble last Wednesday. When the snow came down, we had trouble on County Road. Some of our trucks, I got stuck in my truck. Not stuck, I just couldn't go nowhere. Most of the ice. And we've been working on our roads that we're trying to get the worst places first, and then we, got the job on Kent Hill. And so we wrote down our totals in case you want stone totals or anything, or stone and gravel. Tyler takes care of everything, real good records with Tyler. And on the culvert itself, we took 38 yards of plant mix. And then we put 280 yards on Kent Hill from West Church to County Road.
How many yards?
280 yards.
Wow, okay.
And that's 14-yard dump trucks, so it's like probably 8 loads or so.
Wow.
And Ed Rouse's back, and we're watching him very carefully. He's gonna limit it. I don't want him doing anything but running the grader.
Yeah.
And he's a big help. And then we worked on Adamant Road, just down by the store, because it was so muddy. And we put in 28 yards there. And we worked on Martin Road after the washout on the Saturday before Easter, and we repaired that road Easter Sunday. That was just 14 yards. Moscow Woods took 112 yards, and North Calais was the next big one. That was 224 yards from Moscow Woods down to Town Hall. Our total for yardage is 1,032 yards, and right now we're getting it for $19 a yard when we pick next door. And they're not charging us, they're charging everyone else $1 surcharge for fuel. And we're not paying that price yet because we're getting all the material that's made last year.
Nice.
So therefore, now we're starting to put plows away and getting the mulchers out and all that, and we're going to start thinking about what we're going to apply for our project for the summer. The segments.
Yeah, and you're thinking that will be on Beacon?
We're going to do the ditch on Beacon. We have something else. We have enough money there, we can do somewhere else. And everything's on really kind of, we're on thin edges till after July.
Yeah.
Pop gives us money, but he's taking their money back from us.
Well, I was gonna say, all those numbers, there were loads of gravel.
Right.
Right, all gravel.
Yeah.
Gravel was an area of the budget that we were doing fine, actually. It was sand and repairs.
Oh, yeah, we're close to 5,400 yards of sand this winter.
Wow. 1,000 of those are on my lawn.
It's white, so you can see it really well.
Did you brush that back down the road?
I did actually.
And a lot of that, because every night it snowed, it wasn't, we didn't have any really big
Yeah.
snows, it was just almost every other night.
Yeah, exactly. Crazy.
And we're fortunate so far with trees this year, we haven't had many come down.
Knocking on.
Yeah.
Talk about beavers.
Shiloh will take care of beavers, go ahead and tell them about your beavers.
We've been battling beavers up on Gray Road
Yeah.
almost every day. We don't go up a few times a week. Water will be right over the road. So it's been an issue lately.
Does the landowner not want final remediation?
I think,
I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure he'll go for it, but he actually lives down on Tucker, he's at the end of Tucker.
The neighboring property has pledged to take care of it. They say they have an ongoing sort of family tradition of dismantling the dams. And I think that might have been true last year, but that's not true this year.
Ogden saw the beaver, Ogden and Tyler saw the beaver today.
Did you see two?
Two beavers.
The little one and the giant one.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a major challenge. These guys are putting a lot of time in on this one.
Yeah, the excavator's parked there now.
Uh-huh.
And it's a perennial problem. It's a year after year thing.
Oh, I was going to ask that question. Has it been like every year you have
Yeah,
the
to some
same?
extent. I think it's worse this year than last, but I think it's been.
And the logger Tyler uses to unplug the culverts with, the beaver eat it.
That's amazing.
It's getting personal.
Yeah, exactly.
He took all the, I have a picture, he took all the bark off of it.
Is there any baffle possibility or other
This one's smart.
control?
He's very smart.
They have cages around the ends of the culvert.
Okay, but they still,
But they're able to either work their way in and around the cage or just jam up.
And sometimes we've seen trails where he walks across the road and puts it in behind
in
him.
the back.
And there's a significant dam below too, right?
Yeah.
Which is a relatively
Well,
new
they've
thing.
been here longer than we were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we need baffles in there, or?
I don't know what's gonna happen to the school if the other dam breaks.
Where you said it was like 12 feet high. It's large.
Wow.
I haven't driven by there.
This is, you can't really see this. Oh, come on, good. That one. That's the dam downstream.
Oh, wow. That's a big one.
Oh, yeah. Exhibit A.
Downstream on what? On,
Off of Gray Road.
Off of Gray Road.
School will be out, this, back of the school's down below there.
uh-huh, yep.
So is it worth getting the state beaver
Do you
people
want to have a
out?
look?
I think so. I'm pretty sure he's seen that site before, but we can take any advice.
So busy.
Yeah. I know that there's been, a fair amount of discussion about, standing up a coexistence policy of sorts. And I think, at some point that's probably warranted. In the interim, I think what would be helpful, I think, given the interests that have been expressed, like within the community about, wanting to see kind of a minimalist approach, which I understand the ecology of it and the motives behind that. But I think that we need to kind of decide what the hierarchy of decision making is going to be, and so I think would be helpful from the road crew would be knowing where. In a handful of these exceptions where there are impacts to infrastructure, what are the things that we're concerned about? What's the level that we would see as an acceptable height of water that kind of balances, the habitat goals with protecting the road infrastructure, and also to that extent, minimizing the amount of labor and work that you guys have in maintaining that particular level. So coming with this is the road, this is the segment, this is the culvert. This is what we think is a manageable level of beaver activity. Anything beyond that, we need a solution, and then that's where I think it makes sense to bring in the state to give us a design recommendation for a baffle. I mean, I think that they've worked reasonably well in certain areas, but they're not going to always work everywhere. And so we just need a better idea of what those thresholds are for you guys, so that it's a manageable situation. And then I think a part of that is going to be a kind of a basic risk assessment of if this continues. This is the risk downstream.
We're knowing what our solutions are, to some kind of baffle structure, trapping the beaver, or removing the dam. I think those are the three basic tools.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to know, the order of events and then where we can bypass and make certain decisions, especially like an emergency situation. But anyway, I think that probably the next step with this is to have Tyler Brown out to take a look at that, at the Gray Road, to see if he can propose a solution that will, one of his mechanical solutions.
Is he responsive in terms
Yeah, he
of
is.
timing and?
Yeah, he's probably very busy.
Beaver season.
Depends on what time of year, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And if it makes sense, have them take a look at a couple of locations, if you got 3 or something like that, while we have them engaged.
The ones that took out Martin Road on Easter Sunday, that was 2 beaver dams off of Wheeler.
Yeah,
Broke and came down, flooded the field, then came under County Road.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know if we're aware of any others that are threatening
Just Gray
the
Road.
road, yeah. Anyway,
Do we have a contact for somebody who traps beavers?
there's a couple people. One of them said that they would need express written approval by the select board. They weren't going to do it.
So that's fine.
Yeah.
yeah. You can also get
And the landowner.
You can also get a permit, basically, from the state to do it, I believe, or at least have the authorization. Anyway, I think it's going to be largely relative to what we perceive as the impacts to road infrastructure and labor to mitigate those impacts.
So I know there was another group looking at a beaver policy, but do you want us to go ahead and look into it? And see?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious. I just drove through Richmond last week and noticed that they had a fair amount of beaver ponds that were very well established immediately adjacent to a number of culverts. And I was visiting somebody who lived on one of those roads, and I'm curious to see if maybe they have some sort of policy. It seemed like a very deliberate effort to take a minimalist approach, and I think every community kind of has to kind of weigh what that cost-benefit analysis is going to be. Anyway, yeah, if you want to do some noodling around.
Yeah, okay.
And sorry for being late, everyone.
No.
Thanks for carrying on.
Anything else you want these guys to know?
What about the roadside infringement in the right of way, where they're putting the poles and markers?
By the school?
Yeah, by the school. The other one is George Road and Pekin Brook. He's got metal stakes out against the side of the road where the farm is there.
Oh, I didn't know about that one.
Yeah.
I will call the Franks tomorrow about their rental. We had an agreement that we were going to address it once the snow
And
melted.
my concern is that we're on Doug Lilly. He's finally going by the rules. We can't let somebody.
Yeah, no.
No, fair.
It's only
Yeah.
fair. Yeah.
So the Ordinance Advisory Committee is wrapping up some work on 2 ordinances that are somewhat related to work and things in the right-of-way, and one of them is defining the types of things that are installed in the right-of-way. I think wherever you come upon stuff that is placed in the right-of-way, taking a picture so that we can kind of like catalog those things and make sure that we document where they are, and make sure that when there is a policy, we can be consistent about its application, I think is going to be pretty important.
There's a lot of places where they have steel markers out.
Yeah.
That they would be a hazard to somebody who they fell on. It could be an impalement.
I think if anybody on the road crew has a concern about any particular structure, anything that poses a safety risk or something like that, just snap a photo and send it to Kari, just so that we can kind of start just seeing what the spectrum of different things are, so that we can have a better conversation about it. I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah, and that is going to help us be consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, appreciate
I
that.
said one question. Do you guys have a tool or a device other than a hand shovel, clear, under the culvert, where you got the posts to get the water to go off the side of the road? How do you guys deal with that normally, when you get that bank that comes there after the winter?
Oh, the berm on the side of the road?
Under the guardrails, I'm sorry.
Under the guardrails, no, we don't.
Yeah, okay.
That's, we try to do that when we take berms out, so DEP is
Not bad, okay.
And Jordan, I don't know if you heard John talking about the Martin Road, second issue with Martin Road before you came.
I did not.
You want to just repeat
But-
that for?
There's a culvert up there that just failed,
Oh, okay.
and we repaired it for overnight, until we get it out. We use sandbags a lot of times, we can, we sandbagged it and filled it in.
Okay,
Well, thank you for that.
all right.
That's why,
Did we have a culvert?
that's why we're in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have one that size, when was it, 20 inches? Maybe 30 maybe.
Yeah. Wow. I wonder if anybody else has one around. Just lead time on culverts still pretty
No.
pretty bad.
If you
No.
call Johnson Hardware, they'll have it within 2 days. We found out it's easier for them to deliver it than more than to go pick them up.
Would that be a straight replacement, or is there a need to upsize that one?
I think it's big enough, I think it just failed, it's an old metal one.
Oh, okay.
I think it rusted at the top. I looked inside and it was collapsing metal.
We can use our judgment if it's not grant funded, and 30 inches is pretty sizable
Yeah.
for that part of the world anyway.
Yeah, I would just check in, I guess, with Toby and see if there's any kind of emergency repair structure or something. Or
Grant.
Yeah, grant that we can apply to it, but
I'll check for that one.
yeah.
It's called FEMA, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it's not gonna go very far. Did we need a decision around that at
The
all?
culvert?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Take care of it.
Yeah, I think that's the right call. Thanks for the update, guys. Again, sorry I was late. Appreciate all the work. Yeah. And the Canton Hill looks great, so fantastic. Thanks for
Yeah. And
getting to it.
Graded.
Yeah, I was glad to see it graded. I'm really impressed with how that section of road is staying dry and seems to be wicking water. Promising.
Away from where the French mattress was, coming the other direction
Yeah.
where it's a little soft.
Yeah.
And that's still where that spring's there. So
Is-
we didn't want to go after that at this point in time.
No, I think that makes sense.
We don't really know what's in there, but there is a spring under the road right there, it went down to that house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay?
Thanks, guys.
And we're good.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good night.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Next up on the agenda is a curb cut evaluation for Lightning Ridge.
Yeah, so Lauren Tiger is on the Zoom with us, and Lauren's application is in the folder. And I have an update. So John had initially done an evaluation of the site and had 3 recommendations. He scaled that back after reviewing with the others in the crew, and they don't think that it's necessary or even wise to install a culvert under the new curb cut. I went by and saw it for myself today, and there's really just nowhere for water to move downhill from there. So minimal ditching on either side of a new culvert under the existing
New
driveway.
culvert, not new culvert.
It's a new driveway culvert under the existing curb cut.
Got it.
That was one of John's initial recommendations. Lauren's aware of it, she was supportive of it, or accepting of it, and so that was sort of the condition that we're recommending for the application. Otherwise, it's fine, it meets the sight line distances, and yeah, I think that's it. Lauren, anything to add?
Oh, you're
You're
muted.
muted, Lauren.
I told myself I wasn't going to do that, but I did it anyway. Thank you, first of all, for everybody for considering this. And The only question Carrie asked me today was the distance from where it would be a very small driveway, curb cut, new one, as opposed to the other one. And he asked about whether it was close to the septic tank. And I have a map from the existing owner of where the septic tank is. I don't know whether there are any requirements in terms of distance from that. If there are, you should let me know. And I can, just to be safe, I want to go check that map out. I don't have it here where I am. So I will do that. But if there are a number of feet that it has to be, you should let me know. But to my knowledge, it's quite a distance from where the curb cut, even the end of the curb cut into the property would be located.
Yeah, there's no town requirement
Okay.
about septic. It's just for your,
Yeah.
you know.
Property value.
Sure. I understand. Yes, I understand. Thank you.
Is the intention, I guess, to discontinue use of the original one? The original curb cut and driveway?
Not really. I mean, the problem is that I'm looking for this as a seasonal thing because the way the house is situated and the way the current driveway is, it means that when you're trying to walk into the house, the entrance to the house is on the other side from where the current driveway is. And in the winter, especially the winter that we just had, so much snow falls off the roof that it's almost impossible to keep up with it. And it's very difficult to get into the house from that side. So I was just looking for something that would be enough to park seasonal parking space for one spot, during the worst part of the winter so that I can actually get in the house.
Getting in the house in the winter time.
Think about property value.
I see. Well, thanks for the explanation.
Yeah, especially when you have a lot of little old ladies coming over to visit. It makes it very difficult.
Well, they won't all be able to park in that spot.
No, they won't be able to park in the spot. It would just be big enough for one car, really, probably me to park there.
Well, that seems pretty straightforward to me. And my kind of habitual request on these types of things is a little more documentation on the distances, just locating them, kind of like to document as-built conditions. So if there's a way that after it is installed that we can get a reference from like the corner of the property line to the beginning of the curb cut, essentially, just to place it in space and time in the as-built condition, then that would be
I could probably take
greatly
care of that
appreciated.
with the
Yeah,
final.
I don't think we need to hold up any consideration of our approval, but that does help kind of clean up the documentation on our end.
Sure. I mean, I'd be happy to provide that beforehand if you wanted me to. I could go do the measurements or whatever, but.
No, it can be added just as easily, retroactively, either as an as-built dimension or otherwise. That's not a problem. And then I guess the caveat I would pose to the rest of the select board is it's a little abnormal to have multiple curb cuts for a parcel of this size, and I think it'd be reasonable to qualify that if there's any kind of concern, safety concern or issue or impact relative to the usage of both of those curb cuts for accessing the property, that the town reserves the right to raise the issue to the property owner and seek remediation of some sort. But I don't imagine that that's going to be an issue with this particular parcel.
Seems very reasonable to me.
So if we could add language similar to that on the application as kind of a conditional approval, then I'd be happy to entertain a motion to approve the curb cut.
And and also that the permit would clarify about the culvert.
Yeah,
situation.
yeah, I got that.
Yeah.
Install a driveway culvert under existing driveway. Town will install owner purchase at cost. Minor ditching on either side. Town reserves the right to require adjustments if safety concerns.
Safety or, impacts to the road relative to grade. I believe it's a slight uphill off of the road there. So if
Yeah, it
there's
is.
some grading that needs to be addressed to minimize the amount of runoff, it's such a small surface area that I don't suspect it's going to be much of an issue, but
Okay.
So moved.
thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. I think that was unanimous. And thank you
Thank
for
you
the
very, very
time.
much.
All right.
No problem.
Good luck with it.
Next agenda item is local housing, and we're running a little ahead of schedule. We're still expecting Gus
Yeah,
this
as
evening.
far as I know. I haven't heard differently. Just do the warrants or something?
We could do that.
Or the letter? No, the letter.
Letter.
Barry might have an interest in that.
Yep. Is that moving it up from, was that under the administrative items, I
It
believe?
was, yeah.
Yeah. So after the last meeting, we kind of agreed to task Jamie with drafting a letter to the school board relative to the measure that was passed at town meeting. And Jamie circulated that. Hopefully everyone's had an opportunity to read through it.
With the modification that it's to the superintendent, right? As opposed to the school board.
Yes, I believe that would
Right.
be.
She always, yeah.
I'm not saying, he said school board.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The letter is
Yes.
directed to the superintendent and with a
With a
cover note
letter
to the,
school board.
school board.
Yes.
Just wanted to clarify.
Thank you. Somebody's got to keep me straight. I'm fighting the plague, lack of sleep.
Excellent. Glad to be
You're
sitting
welcome,
with you.
everyone.
So glad to be sitting with you.
I just had a vacation. Are there any other comments on the letter? I think.
I have one. And Jamie, I thought it was a good letter, and I appreciated all the thought that you put into it. I thought we also wanted to say something about transparency and a request that, I don't know, the communications be more clear about the data, the consolidation stuff. And I don't know that we got any more concrete than that, but what do you think about that?
I do remember that, and I support that, but I did not.
have my hearing aids.
Oh, sorry. Barry, I just said that I thought that we had also wanted the letter to address the transparency issue or the lack of transparency, and a request that the superintendent and the board be more, give us more data about what's going on with enrollment and consolidation considerations. I don't want to do it if it's inconsistent with what we thought we were doing, but I think that was mentioned.
Yes, I think it was, and I did not remember that when I wrote this. But I feel like we could maybe add a short two or three sentence paragraph.
This is clearly an issue of paramount importance to Calais residents, and we appreciate efforts to be more forthcoming, transparent, as planning moves ahead, something like that.
I think if you want it can just be a sentence at the end.
Right, it could
Oh,
almost
just
go
tack on
right
to
at
the very
the
end.
end.
Yes.
We
If you wanna
appreciate
read-
your attention to this matter and your consideration of the clear and consistent wishes of the Calais community.
I think Kristen said it right, but, we ask that there be a consistent effort at transparency around the data used associated with the decision-making process. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's good.
Tegan has a hand raised on Zoom.
Did any of you attend the last school board meeting?
I did not, and I meant to go back and watch it, but I haven't had time. Did you?
They did a much better job. They have a new chair now, and they did a much better job of opening up to specific questions from the public and answering them to the best of their ability in real time. And they are intending to make every other meeting a much more public conversation rather than a school board meeting that you can come to and watch if you want to. So I do think that communicating openly and clearly and frequently is a thing that they are trying to improve at the moment.
That's great to know. We can say that.
I have something as well.
Yep, go ahead, Bill.
The second to last paragraph, the last sentence says, given this, we strongly urge the school board district to find a way to keep all Calais elementary school students at Calais Elementary School. And that's a little bit of overreach, because the thing was about kindergarten and preschool. It wasn't about keeping all students there. So I just think that sentence should either be reworded or part of that taken out.
Can I make just a comment? Is that appropriate?
Yeah, Barry.
Okay. It's just that when I read that, I felt that what he was saying is, because if you're keeping the first two sixth graders there, it's appropriate. The town's sentiment at the vote was to keep everybody there now. And that's how I read that when I read the.
But that's not what the minutes say, Barry.
What's that?
That's not what the minutes say, Barry. The approved select board minutes, not the town hall minutes, don't say that. It was pre-K and kindergarten.
No, I understand.
He's separating the two issues here.
I'm not disagreeing that it was pre-K. I said when I read that, it seemed to me that it was meant to say that we want everyone kept there because they're only talking about moving pre-K and kindergarten.
Right.
But that sentence, when I read it, it seemed to say, since we're keeping the rest of the kids, we want the whole body there. You wrote it, so that's how I read it. I'm not saying anything different to that.
Right. I take your point, but I think the intent of it, my intent was, we're talking about pre-K and K because that's the class that they're talking about moving. But really the sentiment of the town, of the whole conversation around this is about keeping the school
The whole body,
intact.
all the students.
To address Bill's concern, you could say, given that 1 to 6 are staying, we urge the school district to keep all the kids together, which is essentially what you're saying.
I could agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same thing you were saying.
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you.
I want to add that if no one has watched the last meeting, one of you might want to before you send this letter. A great bulk of the meeting was explaining their reasoning. And I'm not saying you shouldn't write the letter. I'm just saying I would at least listen in to their reasons and say that, yes, you did participate, instead of sending this without paying attention to that time that they put into explaining their reasoning.
Good suggestion.
Yeah.
Okay, so does that mean do we want to take Tegan's suggestion and hold for a meeting before we?
Yeah, go watch the movie.
I don't know that, having watched at least the meeting on this, they did a presentation. I agree that the new chair has made an attempt to try to bring everybody more together. But I would just say for myself, I didn't feel that the presentation they gave really answered the question about whether to keep the kids or not. So I don't know, Tegan, what your thoughts are on that, but I don't know that the letter needs to be held because of that. We're meeting again on Wednesday. I don't think they're going to reach any vote now, but I think them getting the letter would be appropriate before this coming board meeting.
Right. I mean, Tegan, did you feel that they did a better job of sort of explaining their process or reasoning, but they didn't walk back the plan to move some students, is that right?
Change the plan to move some students, but I did feel that they made clearer points about what their goals are. Like they said that lots of districts are moving towards having pre-K sort of centers in their district. So they thought having 3 hubs of pre-K would allow for more opportunities in those pre-K programs rather than having them spread between 5 schools. And then as far as the kindergarten, I know when we moved here, I registered my kid for kindergarten and he was the 5th kindergartner. And there was real debate, or 5th or 6th kindergartner, and there was real debate that year about moving that class to East Montpelier for a year to join with their kindergarten class and coming back. And I guess us signing up was one of the either or. So this is not the first time they've ever thought about moving a class over there. I think when they have teeny tiny classes, this is something that they open up. And they talked about the fact that they've tried combining kindergarten with 1st grade and it's too big a gap. It doesn't work. All the other grades can kind of be combined in this way and that way, but putting kindergartners in with 1st graders, there's just too much of a gap between kids who are just starting and not. And so trying to combine K1 doesn't make sense. Again, I'm not saying you shouldn't write the letter. I'm not saying they've made 100% airtight case for this. I just think to show them the respect for the thought they have put into it and to at least pay attention to that meeting would be a really valuable thing to do.
I would just comment that the intent of this was to follow through on what we heard from our voters. And so, and it's not our, one of the other comments we made at the previous meeting was that, as a select board, we don't have purview over this issue, right? It's not our regulatory responsibility. So I guess I would, given what's been said, I would say we should just get if there's agreement about the content of the letter, that it goes in because it's a marker from town meeting when that vote was placed on the floor. So, in my mind, this is a fluid thing, and Daniel talked about that when he was here, that it was not a decision made yet. That information was still coming forward. So I guess, I think maybe we all, what I would suggest is that we move forward on just finalizing this and putting it in so that the record is carried forward that the voters asked us to carry forward. Is that, I don't know.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I've been kind of mulling over it. I think what this doesn't include is an underlying issue with folks feeling like it seems to be, there are a couple of decisions now where their decisions can get influenced through the process and feedback, and so it just never feels like a completely finalized decision, and then something shifts. And so I don't know how appropriate it is to add to this, but I guess as a community member, it would be beneficial to ask for some clarification from the superintendent or the school board about what kind of timeline, when is it going to be a final decision, and how are people going to know that that's a final decision? Are we going to be are they going to continue to receive feedback on these things until the last minute, and then the decision's going to be the decision. I think that.
Right.
Does that last sentence not, that got added, not somewhat address that?
Not.
I mean, I think this could go on and, right, we
It
could.
Yeah, that's fine.
Right.
That's, yeah.
You know, in fairness, like, I really think, like, holding to the purpose was to be responsive to the voters. And I think, you know, that we're at town meeting on that floor vote. That was the purpose. And then there was the request to reiterate the vote, that the vote had taken place and that it, you know, voted down on the closure. So I think those two things are addressed in this letter, and I think we should maybe not perseverate on how much else could get.
Get into it too much, and it's just gonna keep going. I agree with you. I will just say from the meeting, from my listening, you got both messages that this is final, but it's not final because they don't know the number of kids, and they may have to send the kindergarten because there's only 6, but there's only 14 actually signed up for the pre-K yet, and 6 pending, and they never know. You know, I mean, I think that's kind of, it's sort of done, and it may not be done depending on the final numbers. So I agree. My whole intent was to just get the sentiment that Barbara said, and I think that was expressed in Jamie's letter. I thought it was a good letter, overbearing and understanding. So.
Well, thank you again, Jamie, for putting the time into trying to encapsulate that. And to that end, you know, I think it sounds like there's reasonable consensus around accepting the draft. I don't know that it needs to be a vote, or we plan. You know, do we need to sign it?
The key is, are you authorizing Jamie to finish it up and send it off?
Yes.
In the next day or so?
That's what I was heading towards. So, so if other board members are comfortable with that approach, then I'd like to entertain a motion to authorize Jamie to finalize the letter and distribute it to the superintendent with a cover letter for the school board.
Okay.
So moved.
And could we all be carbon copied as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems.
Sure, yeah.
Thank you.
Or just copy the select board
Yeah.
list.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
Great.
So Barbara moved, and then did someone second that? And
Bill seconded it, I think.
I'll second, yep.
okay.
And then nobody voted because I didn't call for one. But yeah, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That sounds unanimous. There you go. Thank you. Thanks, Meadow.
And can you, I'm not sure y'all signed in, but when you leave,
I
if
will
you would,
before I
yeah,
go out.
thank you.
No, I barely got in.
All right. So that was, we'll bounce back. Sorry about that, Gus. We were just picking up some extra scope of work there while we were waiting for you to come in. So I'd like to circle back to the local housing development. So I guess further context here is the topic that we've been really focused on trying to keep on the agenda. And we've heard from various community members who have been working on certain tasks about, you know, trying to inform the select board and what we can do. I'm sure you're aware of those conversations. But we wanted to invite you in, Gus, just to continue on that conversation and invite folks who have maybe a better purview on projects that have been successful on this subject matter, to entertain recommendations for actions or otherwise steps that we could take as a select board to kind of try to move the needle on this issue locally. And part of that is kind of interpreting changes to Act 181, and you know, I think if I'm going to speak on behalf of the select board and rural communities, I think some of the feedback is that, you know, like Act 181 does a lot to focus resources and opportunity in certain communities, but it doesn't add a whole lot of direction or incentive for some of the rural communities. And part of this was feeling like, well, that shouldn't prohibit us from trying to think creatively and take some actions on our own as a smaller rural community. And that's, how's that? Did that give you any direction?
Not sure, but I'll give it my best.
Just to let you know, he sleeps housing, he dreams housing.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad, as a member of this community, that you want to tackle this issue. It's gonna, whatever we do as a community, it's gonna be really, really expensive because the words affordable housing is really an oxymoron. Because affordable, people would have, and just to start with a few numbers, I asked the VHFA how the cost of housing has changed over the last 5 years in Calais. And in 2020, we were at $245,000, the average sales price of a home. And back then, and this is maybe even more important, interest rates were under 4%. So today, in 2025, we had jumped up based on 17 sales to $475 is the average cost of a home in Calais. Back in 2020, the average cost of a home in Vermont, according to them, was $245, same as Calais. Today, the state's at $379. The cost of building anything new is much more expensive, as anybody who's trying to build anything new knows, an existing home. My daughter was going to build on our land, and when she got the pricing in the middle of the pandemic from Huntington, that's when she started looking for an existing home and ended up lugging out on Camp Road. But it's just super expensive to build new stuff. And you should know this is not, there's lots people could say about 181, but this is not a Vermont problem, it's a national problem.
Yeah.
When I look at New England data from Zillow, Vermont's cost increased by 57%, and that was the lowest in New England. Maine doubled in their costs.
Yeah.
And so we are part of the national trend. In general, housing advocates would say that local policies make a difference, and so getting the town plan done, getting whatever issues are going on as that gets debated between the planning commission and the conservation commission, get those people together and get it resolved and get a town plan and then look at zoning. Our zoning for villages is pretty good, and that's having designated villages. I don't know how that quite plays out with the revisions, but I think that it means we still can build in and around our villages without the oversight. I think I looked at the materials David Healy gave you, and I agree with almost all of them. I think the place to start is to get a committee of citizens that are focused on the issue. The least expensive thing to do is going to be for somebody who wants to turn a single-family home into a duplex to use the VHIP program or to develop an accessory dwelling unit. That would be the least expensive thing that anybody can do to increase the amount of housing stock. I would say, just going to the issue you were just discussing, Middlesex is like the most expensive community in the district. East Montpelier a year ago, the costs have come down, was at $520 a unit. So I think what that means for young families moving into any of the 5 towns is it's going to be really hard. Beyond zoning, we've had a conservation fund in town since about 1990. Although it may not make a huge difference, you've seen how powerful that could be just with people who want to donate easements. I would suggest we think about having a housing fund in town. And if all you can do with it is help somebody get the design and the permits who wants to turn their single home into a duplex, that's still a victory. So I think that's something that people ought to discuss. But I think if you have a housing committee, they can bang those issues around of what can be done quickly and locally. Infrastructure is the other big issue for any developer. And other than the water district and the fire district in East Calais, we don't have any public infrastructure. You might say that's too big an issue for a town of this size to take on. I can tell you after years of debate, Montgomery's moving ahead with a sewage system, and Walcott is also moving ahead. So I don't think it's impossible for a small town to focus on an issue like that. I think in looking at all the recommendations that David made, talking to landowners about their willingness to see housing development happen is important. The biggest need right now is rental housing across the state. And it's really hard to develop rental projects without infrastructure. I'm not saying it's impossible, but really, when you think about the challenges and the risk, when you don't know, when you dig a well, what it's going to cost, what's going to be required in terms of permitting for a septic system, what kind of system will be permissible, it makes it really hard to think about multifamily housing. And it's not any cheaper to build multifamily housing than it is single-family homes. The codes are different, and that makes it more expensive. Most of the subsidies that are available, whether from federal government or state government, are focused on people who are at 60% of median and below. There's some that go up to 80. Our funding, although we pair it with all those programs, can go up to median income at the Housing and Conservation Board. But what you're going to find as you look at one of the big problems Vermont has today, as I was looking at the data, it said the average per household in Calais had an income of $100,000. We're a home ownership community with not very much rental stock. The average renter, VHFA had a stat that 5% of renters can afford to buy the average home in Vermont today. So when you think about building new, there's not a big body of people who live in Vermont, or maybe people who want to come to Vermont, who can buy what it's going to cost to build a home. So that's a real dilemma for all of us who work on this. Maybe the most cost-effective program in the state are the local Habitat for Humanity chapters. There's one in central Vermont. They're pretty busy, because they use volunteer labor and get donations, they produce single-family housing at the lowest cost that we get to participate in. So that's a thought on how to address a little bit of single-family housing. And I think just looking at, and David gave you the maps, where is it possible around the villages to build is a good idea. I don't know. One source of funding, and there may be some other sources at the Agency of Natural Resources, but the Community Development Block Grant has a planning grant program. So if you wanted to inquire of the fire district in East Calais of whether it made sense to look at strengthening that district so it could add capacity, that might be a source of funding to help figure that out. And there may be sources at the Agency of Natural Resources that could do that, to support that kind of work as well. I lived in the village for a long time, and we always had great water, but I've always been told by my neighbors at the far end of the system that in the summertime, the pressure got really low. So I don't think that system can add people to it at this point. Maybe it can, but I think it would be a struggle at the far end of the system without it improving. The good thing about East Calais that I know, because at our place there's lots of sandy soil, so that can make for conventional septic, at least in some locations, instead of more expensive systems. Although even the in-ground conventional systems are expensive these days. So those are a few thoughts about our housing challenges, but I'd say, from what David tells me, we've got some citizens that are willing to get together and be a housing committee, and I would join them if you wanted me to, and begin the work of trying to figure this out.
Yeah, I appreciate that offer. I think that's something that we've discussed. Wanting to be mindful of is, creating multiple committees, and but I do think that there's a certain amount of efficiency to organizing a group of individuals who have the right purview of experience and motivation. I think as a select board, looking for specific recommendations on the low-cost opportunities, things that we can, actions that we can take, you know, pushing for the completeness of the town plan, so that we have something that provides actionable goals, or is one. I think we've tentatively discussed taking a closer look at the town regulations and seeing where we could make very specific tweaks to town land use regulations to help facilitate, you know, or encourage, just make it just even another step easier in the appropriate places to start adding units. There, from my perspective, isn't a lot of examples of those types of actions or steps being made or taken, and where they've had positive results. You know, not to pass the buck to anybody specifically, but you know, at some point, it's nice to, as a governing body, to have a group like CVRPC or one of these other commissions that is steeped in the data and has been looking and thinking about these things, to say, like, this is a specific measure that you could in the interim implement, and is theoretically a low-cost modification to town plans or zoning regulations, or a type of program. The other one for me is the funding element of it, and I personally like the idea of having a complementary housing or development fund that kind of complements the conservation fund, and a supporting policy around it. I'm curious what your thoughts are about, like, and maybe this is the same thing, but like a community development fund that could be that could receive even private contributions from community members who are willing to put resources towards that, to see something happen. I don't know if anybody's really doing that at this particular scale in the rural spaces, and there's plenty of other organizations that do similar things, but
What I would say to you is that, Burlington has a housing fund, Montpelier has a housing fund. There are a few other communities that do. I don't know of any towns the size of Calais that have a housing fund. I'm just saying that that's something that a committee can beat around about its value and then bring a proposal back to the select board. But what I'm saying is, if you even think about something as simple as, how does somebody who's got a big old house and wants to divide it into 2 apartments get the help they need to do the design work and get the permitting and get it out to bid? A small fund could be used for something like that, just in the same way that we've used the conservation fund to help absorb the costs of donating an easement, which are considerable these days. So I'm just saying that there are problems, and I would also say that even if the town, it took 3 years to figure out what the town wanted to do and a fund accumulated, that will make you, as state and federal funding shrinks, more attractive to get state or federal funds, that the town is going to put some of its own money into it. And if you can get somebody to make a donation to the fund, all the better. But I think if you are an organization like Downstreet, which has actually been Montpelier's biggest developer, do a project to help with flood recovery in Barry pretty soon. When you are asked to come into a community that has no infrastructure and figure something out, if they're taking a risk and spending money on their staff, professional consultants they need. So if there's a fund that can help absorb that, East Montpelier actually approached them to do something in North Montpelier some years ago at the same time that the store was getting going. And I said, Brett, why don't you make it one project? And she said, too risky. No infrastructure either place, too many things can go wrong, too many small buildings. So having a small fund may help bring somebody in who otherwise would not come in, in my opinion. But, and whether it's doing studies or working with landowners or homeowners, I think it could be of value.
If I were to play devil's advocate, just for the sake of conversation, one of my concerns about a reserve fund is we've been talking about adding so many reserve funds for various things, and it's another line of expense, even in the cases where we've added reserve funds and we're just funding them at token increments, just to get them started, to try to develop some muscle memory around them. We're at a higher level still asking the taxpayers to fund these programs, and to a certain extent that feels uncomfortable to me, at least. And I think having a mechanism that can receive donations is huge. That's a huge step. But I think as a community, we also have to think carefully about funding these types of things and creating funds like this, where we're creating an incentive from folks who can already barely afford it to begin with.
That's a really hard issue right now.
Yeah.
I do think that there's something in the, you were, I think, hinting at this, but I just wonder if there's a way, or if you have any examples, Gus, that you can think of that are, a community group identified. I'm not sure if this is how some of the groups we already know about are operating, but if they have a 501c3 and they're creating sort of a pool of funds to support just this kind of activity, the town could invest in that, could decide to, make us, we make these social service grants every year. So we could be saying, yes, we'd like to do that, but we don't want to carry it as the whole. And that also allows for, a demographic in Calais, albeit, I recognize potentially limited, but there's a demographic here of a transfer of wealth that's happening because of the age demographic we have. So that would give an opportunity for people to say, I do want to invest in, the community over the long run, by making a philanthropic gift at some point, planned gift or whatever. So you know what I mean? There could be, and this is what a committee might explore. But I assume that's what some of the folks are doing, like the group in Greensboro, or have created something as a private 501c3.
They have.
Yeah.
Greensboro, Craftsbury, and 2 or 3 other towns that we're talking about the same entity.
Yeah. And it seems to me, I think, as we explore this, it seems like that gets at a little bit of, it's not the sort of community development fund maybe that you're potentially talking about, but something that is a partnership with community members, as opposed to just the town taking the lead or just the community taking the lead, but that there's really a strong partnership around it.
It's really hard at the local level, at this local level, and I think it's even going to be hard for the Greensboro, Craftsbury, 5-town consortium to figure out how to be something other than a volunteer group that actually
get something.
They are committed to doing development, but how you sustain yourself. We've actually just been through a process over the last decade or so of helping a number of organizations consolidate and in order to have enough financial strength to carry this work on, because it's not inexpensive to do. And there aren't necessarily people who are available to do it. Right, the continuity of and I'm literally the last person to suggest another 501c3. I got to tell you, there's too many in our state already. But I was just thinking about it in terms of the opportunity around the sort of public-private partnership scenario. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, a word that keeps coming back to me is like, what are the mechanisms? Like, what are the resources that we're making available? You know, whether it's communication, you know, by dedicating real estate on the town website, on, you know, that says like, these are the resources and this is when they could be applicable. I mean, just trying to inform people about what exists already, relative to your point, you know, converting a single family to a second family or to a multifamily. Like, here are a couple of mechanisms, right, that already exist, and just being able to spur some thought by making that information available, and then, you know, I think to Barbara's point, it's creating a mechanism that so that those who can do, you know, and those who can't aren't pulled into something that they already feel like they can't afford. And so, like, what is the mechanism for you know, structuring something like that, so that those who can, there's something there, and that, you know, I do think that the town's planning commissions and the select board, to a certain extent, like, these are bodies that are steeped in like the regulations and the policies of their communities and what makes the most sense locally. But if we have the help on the private side to create the mechanism, but then we have the implementation through the governing bodies of the town, that starts to sound like a pretty compelling model. And I just can't think of too many places that are doing that. And maybe there's a really obvious reason why. So my kind of standing question is there anyone that you think makes sense to invite in to kind of continue on this conversation or thread? For me, it's going to be the funding mechanism. Somehow we have to educate ourselves a little bit better about what the opportunities are, how they're funded, where they're coming from. Like, what are the funding mechanisms that we're going to be looking at?
But I also think it's also about getting out of the way.
Yeah.
Too. Because the price of the house is going to be the same no matter where you build it in Vermont. But getting out of the way and let people know that you want them here and will support them for being here I think, is one of the main things.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so looking at the zoning regs, which I think already are pretty good for the villages, so I think there was actually some work done probably 15 or 20 years ago where we got rid of minimum lot sizes around the villages. And the more we can encourage people to cluster when they're building, not in the villages, but sharing a driveway and that kind of thing, I think the better we'll do on that score too, because we all care about the landscape as well.
Sure.
Or on the policy side, one more thought. Sorry, Ray, I'll come to you after this, but I don't want to lose a train of thought because it's so tenuous. I'm kind of curious whether or not there are like smaller scale tax incentives for like subdivision in the village areas, like in areas that we've already deemed appropriate. And at a very crude level, it's like, do we stand up some sort of tax incentive that is efficient to manage, et cetera, that is sunsetted after 5 years or 10 years, but it tries to encourage folks to consider subdivision, and then maybe by some stretch that just the existence of additional lots then makes it a little bit easier if there's a transfer of ownership or one or
So
another.
just be aware, the state law changed a few years ago, so every homeowner has the right now to have a second home on their lot, unless it won't, unless there's just health concern or something. So like if it won't perk, that might be a reason you wouldn't be able to put a second home in. But everybody's already has that as an automatic right. It was passed into law a couple of years ago. So in terms of that kind of thing, that's already, I think, fundamentally in place. I would suggest that you downstreet administers the VHIP, the Vermont Home Improvement Program, which I think also can be used as a grant for accessory dwelling units. So I think whether you get somebody from the Department of Housing and Community Development to come in, or you ask Downstreet to come in, either of those things are good. I'd also ask Chris Cochran, whose division at the department has been working on a variety of model homes, and I think their hope is that communities will adopt zoning where if you're gonna build one of these model kinds of homes, it's automatically approved, it's, so that it's, to Bill's point, you're more getting out of the way that hearing from Chris as a resident would be, and as a member, as the leader of that team of the department would be a good thing to do.
Great.
And again, I would go back, I know it's the heaviest lift, but I'd go back to looking at the question of, is there a way for somewhere in the town of Calais for there to be public infrastructure? Because that's a big cost for everybody. And we have this water system in East Calais, so let's probably start there, trying to figure out if it's feasible to grow that system.
Barry, did you?
Well, I was going to say, I
brief
thought
comment?
combining the idea of a committee with what you stated as what you almost stated the mission of a committee, even if it was for 6 months or something. Could a committee get together, because you got some very capable, interested people who have housing experience, et cetera, David and Gus, et cetera, to outline ways of, and let them bring in some groups and outline ways of what kind of structures we could do, what's available. I know, you probably know that in Plainfield, they just got a $5 million grant to put up, they combined, I think, with Habitat for Humanities, put up partner, and some affordable and some just condo units. But I think this group of people could probably get you something back in 6 months. Jordan, to answer that basic thing, what's available, what can we do, how can we structure things? I think we all agree that laying it on town taxes is just not reasonable anymore for people. But I think these guys probably could pull out what's already been done, and rather than trying to, I mean, the planning commission, just from sitting in a couple meetings, they're already overloaded trying to do what they're doing. So I think you could get something really productive by the end of the year out of the committee, is my thought.
Well, thank you, I appreciate that, and I want to be mindful of the time that we have for the rest of the agenda. As we're talking through this, before getting into any particular action items, we're going to maybe let this conversation season for a meeting or two, and try to formulate some more thought around what a committee structure could look like, what particular asks would be, so that, you know, maybe we start getting to more tangible action items sooner than later. So if that sounds appropriate, are there any other kind of questions or items that anybody would like to discuss on this topic for now? Otherwise, we might table it and bring it up in a couple of weeks or a few weeks.
Well, next meeting, we can talk more about a committee, like what we want to do to form a committee. I think that's a clear next step.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
And I want to acknowledge John's here, but the you know, ideas that you've shared around some of the tweaks to zoning is also part of this conversation that we've been having. So that addresses part of it. I just want to acknowledge John's here, so that we have those in mind, John, very much so.
Well, you might also just call your representative and ask him to come in, because I'm sure he's hearing from all over the state, so he may have heard an initiative going on somewhere that I haven't heard of. It often happens with legislators, they know what's going on in their communities, so he may have heard a story.
In the kitchen, you may have.
Well, Gus, thank you for the time. Really appreciate it. And thank you for the, you know, offer to serve on the committee. I know you're an incredibly busy person, and that insight would be really valuable. So we'll try to keep you in the loop.
David called me from across the ocean today, and I'll talk to him when he gets back about what ideas he has, and maybe we can even bring you a proposal for a charge.
Thank you, John.
That would be great. Thank you.
Great.
Okay.
Really appreciate it.
Take care.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Oh, Willa is on. Great. the next up is spring check-in with the development review, and it looks like Willa is on, so we're running a little behind. Willa? Appreciate the time. And this is kind of a remnant of a check-in pattern that we've been trying to establish over the last couple of years, and trying to stick to it best we can. But the big question for me is, how are things going? And are there, if you were listening to the previous conversation, I think that the town, certainly the select board and planning commission, we're trying to be more proactive about this topic, and eventually that will obviously impact the work of the development review board, I imagine. But the development review board has a very specific responsibility to administer the zoning regulations. So, and at this point, I don't know how appropriate it would be to involve a consultative approach on that, but certainly we want to be mindful of how any of this work could potentially impact the DRB's ability to perform its role and stay educated on any changes. So I'd just serve that up, I guess, as kind of context. But kind of circling back to the original question, I know we've spent some time trying to set up some budgets on training. How are you feeling about everybody's level of experience, I guess, with the regulations and ability to kind of perform the work?
When we get to, well, I'm happy to speak to that. I can I'll say good evening to everybody. I'm Willa Farrell with the DRB, and we did do some trainings which were really useful. We had two hearings last calendar year, and we had one in January. So I think the best way, I'll speak for myself, but I think probably true for others, to actually learn how to be a DRB member and understand the regulations is when when we actually have an application. So the challenge is we don't have all that many. So it is, I will say, I think I'm still learning on the job. And I think we have a pretty collaborative, solid group that helps each other. And John has been really helpful in helping us prepare for hearings. The other thing that the DRB has done, which I think touches on, without getting into sort of policy issues around regulation and how do we meet people's housing needs, but one thing we have observed is it's not an easy process, as I think has been alluded to, when you file a permit. And one of the things we have done is prepared a document like what to expect from your DRB hearing, so that at least when people get to our stage, they have some understanding. I mean, John explains it, but we all probably need to hear things in multiple ways and different ways of an explanation. So we've created that document, which I think is useful, and also conditional use checklist. So, and the other thing we did as a group was to meet with Sarah and Tegan and to talk with John about the website and what is where and what's linked. And there's a lot of, as with any website, sort of cross-referencing. So I guess to summarize that point, I think what's really important for the town is to make it clear to people what is the process and how does it work, and to, I think somebody said earlier, make it clear for people who can, and I'm not sure we always do that. So that's something we've been working on. Yeah, and I think the other, just FYI, our meeting on Wednesday, we're going to look at major subdivision regulations, because I don't feel equipped, should we get an application, for a major subdivision. So John is going to sit down with us and go through and sort of explain that process. So from my perspective, we continue to learn, we continue to need to learn. I would say that we have a very active and committed group of people who come to meetings and who participate. Yeah, so I'm happy to answer questions, but that's sort of my state of the DRB.
Thank you. I'll open up to other board members if there are any other specific questions. Otherwise, I always have more.
Well, it sounds terrific. I really appreciate the active role you're taking in making the process more understandable for residents and also educating your own group. I'm really pleased to hear the group is, a cohesive one that's hanging together and working well together. I think that's partly to your credit, so thank you for all the work you're doing. Yeah. We just wanted to hear what you needed, what more support you might feel that you need on the DRB.
I think John is our support person, really, is how I think of it. Certainly Tegan, when it comes to technology and all the sort of scheduling, issues that can arise. But I can't think of a specific request. We don't, we put in a budget request for a recording secretary. I think for our administrative meetings, I think that's less necessary, but I think when we have a hearing, it's really helpful to have somebody who's taking notes so that all the board members can actively participate.
Yeah, I think that's really critical. I appreciate you giving some thought to that. I do think it's great that the board is finding time to meet, incrementally to have those training sessions and kind of work through some of that dialogue, because learning on the fly during hearings is really problematic for everyone involved in the process. But then reserving that resource for when there is a hearing, and the stakes are higher for capturing that commentary and providing the opportunity for the seated members to participate in the conversation is great. We're still kind of in flux. Shayna's still committed to.
Shayna's done now.
Oh, she is done now.
Yeah. And Meadows, not to speak for Meadow, but we're still feeling out when Meadows comfortable taking on note-taking beyond Selectboard.
Yeah.
So we will find a way one way or another to cover the DRB, but we're good for now.
Okay. Well, so that's good to hear. But I'd say there's been no further discussion and changing or deviating from that. Still pretty committed to making sure you have that resource available. And one other thing, I think as you are working through that dialogue with John as a zoning administrator, obviously is deeply informed on that subject matter. I think it would be appropriate if especially as you're talking about like very complicated sections, procedural sections like the major subdivision section, if there are tweaks to the zoning regulations that from the DRB's perspective like have either too much ambiguity or not enough clarity around like what the process is, like if there are those types of structural changes that make the user experience, but then also make the information not necessarily easier to interpret, but easier to administer because they lack clarity. Like I think that would be very helpful. There's a very strong likelihood that we're going to be having a lot of conversations from a policy standpoint about the zoning regulations, but just kind of structurally, if that would be the opportunity to try to adopt some of those changes. And I think that would be wholly appropriate for the DRB to provide insight on, I think.
And we have sort of in some occasions discuss things with John, and I think he's been keeping a list of those, for example, like, there was an application for, storage units, Route 14, and like, it wasn't really clear, where do storage units fit in the zoning regs? So, I mean, that's just an example, but, we have sort of noted a few of those, and I believe John, has a running list.
Great, thank you.
We'll continue to do that, yeah.
Sorry, Barbara, did you have one more?
My only question, I appreciate what you were saying about looking at, the major subdivision regs, and are there other topics that you all have on your list that you plan to work through?
Not at this point, so if anyone has suggestions, like, we'd be happy. We have been doing some, what I've been calling administrative meetings, but I think people have also sort of really signed up for hearings, and so we're trying to be mindful of that too.
Right.
But,
okay, no, that I was just curious if there were other topics that had surfaced that you wanted to do a deeper dive on. But, great, thank you.
That's all I've got for now, Willa. Thank you so much for the time and for the commitment to chairing the DRB. But I'm really glad to hear that it's a complementary and collaborative group. I think that makes a huge difference.
It's I will say it's challenging as it's a lot to learn and to serve on the DRB unless you have a deep history like Toby does, but I don't. So, but we rely on each other. So, and John. So thank you. And I enjoyed hearing some of the conversation earlier, and we'll read up on the minutes.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
We'll talk soon.
Good
night. Good night.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That brings us to some conversation around municipal appointments and committee updates. So the first is another appointment consideration. The first one being for the Northeast Kingdom
Central Vermont Fiber.
Yeah. What is the acronym?
NEKCV Fiber.
Those two fiber authorities. So, we're going to talk about appointments generally, but there are a couple potential actions that are more timely. The first is the fiber folks. They asked you to adopt a resolution appointing a representative this month. I think they might have an annual meeting coming up. So Meta reached out to David Healy, who's the current alternate, and Jared Thomas, who's the current representative. And Jared would like to be done serving in that role altogether, and David is willing to become the representative again. He's done it previously. So that would be our recommendation, is to appoint David, get him in place, and then we could seek an alternate, through the appointment process.
Great.
So Jared does not want to be alternate?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad we heard from Jared and didn't appoint everybody. Obviously David has loads of experience. I guess I wouldn't be surprised, short of hearing from David directly. I think he's willing to serve in the role, but I think he would also be just as supportive of somebody who's motivated to take up the role right now. There's some business-related urgency around making sure that we have a representative who understands the system and the network, and certainly David does.
Do we have confirmation David is willing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So.
And then I guess as we move through kind of the calls for various appointments, we've got an alternate spot, and maybe we work with David trying to identify other community members who might have an interest in the subject and be willing to serve as alternate as kind of a protege to David.
Yeah, I think that's
Absolutely.
the opportunity.
So I don't think that warrants too much more discussion. Can I get a motion to appoint David Healy as the Calais representative to the NEKCV?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. I believe that's a one-year appointment, right?
Yes, yes. The next one is for the Regional Planning Commission's Transportation Advisory Committee. This request came from David Ellenbogen, who is the current representative, and he is unable to make the next meeting later this month. And Karen McNeil, who's been the alternate, is not wanting to serve in that role anymore. So David asked if someone could be appointed to be the alternate right away so they could attend this month's meeting. And in conversation.
And I want to do
with our
it.
select board chair.
Yeah, I mean, this is both working with the CVRPC on this particular subject matter is kind of interesting to me. I think that my time commitment is always going to be a healthy question for anybody to ask, but I think as an alternate, I'd be happy to give it a go, and if it becomes a challenge, then I'll say as much, but that at least gives us an opportunity for, I'm available to attend the next meeting. That would be really interesting line of sight into that scope of work. And as long as David is interested in continuing on, after that, I'll just kind of hang out in the wings and participate to the extent that I can.
Great, thanks, Jordan.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any concerns about that? Is David? No.
I move.
So yeah, if that could probably be a dual appointment.
Yep.
A motion to appoint David Ellenbogen as the representative and Jordan Keys as the alternate representative to the CVRPC Transportation Advisory Committee for 1 year.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Should I abstain? I don't think I have to. You can vote for yourself.
I don't think it's that heavy.
You can always vote for yourself.
How dare you, Barbara? That was...
I don't think it will be contested.
Okay, well, that's fair. Great. So that then brings up a review of some work that Kari and Meadow have been digging into, which is kind of this continuous improvement journey that we're on about adding structure to.
Woohoo!
Ooh,
Love it. Love it.
Yes.
So two things. One is adopting that policy last year kind of reset this. And the other thing is Barbara's retirement forced us to grapple with, like, how does this actually get done?
Yeah.
And so these are the next steps, we think, in the process. So we've got a few things for you to review. So first of all, there's a draft procedure in there, and these would be the steps that we would take to get ready for the appointment process. And to recruit candidates, and then clarifies, which committees we would have interviews for, because it's not probably necessary to interview everybody. And then the general timing and the appointments happening in second half of May and then the June meetings. So happy to take any feedback about that.
Okay. These aren't necessarily select board actions. These are your internal procedures that we want to talk through.
Mainly, although it interacts a little bit with the select board process as well. But yeah, we're just looking to get clear. And we're using the policy as our guide, wherever that makes sense. The next one was the policy calls for an application.
Sorry, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
The policy and procedure document, the second item is adoption and applicability. I'm looking at at it directly, but it talks about vacancies in unexpired terms for elected town offices. And so I'm on 2B1, okay? And the purpose up top doesn't address elected positions. So I was just, I'm new to this, so I don't know if this is a brand, I feel like I haven't seen this before, but maybe I have. So, but,
No, I think it was adopted.
so I'm trying to understand what the reference to elected town offices, if that should be in this document or not, I guess is what I'm trying to understand, because it seems to be referring to specifically to, right, to commissions, boards, and committees, perhaps some of which have an elected position, so maybe that's the reference, like the, I don't know, cemetery commissioner.
Or
Yeah,
select
well,
board member.
or a select board member, so it's the municipal bodies and appointments is really just anybody that we
Okay.
appoint, so it's also like the representatives, like the two, or technically 4 positions that we were just considering, so trying to define
So I get that, regional bodies, appointees and delegates, right, municipal bodies. So this one is referring to elected positions, and that's fine. I just think it doesn't, I was just surprised by that, having read the purposes of the document. But, and if you all think that's fine, it's not confusing, that's fine.
Well, it's certainly part of the scope of our responsibility. If there's a vacancy in an elected position, we have the right and may have the obligation to do that. So I think if it warrants creating continuity and adding something to the purpose so that it can include that. This was, so I worked on this a fair amount, or roughed it in a fair amount, and it was structured largely on a policy and procedure mashup that Barry City or Barry Town had.
Oh my God, this happened early on in my time
early.
here.
And then
Right, I was here.
I ran into
So-
language exhaustion and Christine.
We don't need to we
yeah.
don't need to spend a lot of time on this. I just, it initially wasn't clear
It
that
was-
elected
It was
positions.
weird to you, but the answer is there are town boards whose members are elected, and when there's a vacancy on a town board whose members are elected, we have to
Okay,
appoint.
that's, I think that's sufficient.
So should we just flag that for the next time we update this policy?
I don't know if it's even necessary. I just, I was unclear. If others feel like it's clear, that's fine.
We'll probably figure out the lack of clarity when we have to do it next time, so then we can.
Well, the only time that it came up, you know, for lack of better phrasing, as you know, kind of controversial was when we appointed interim select board members, and then there was a request from the community to send that to a vote, and you know, I don't think that was inappropriate. We happened to have an upcoming election where it was relatively efficient to do that, but we
Right.
also were a pretty small and new board and needed people to serve. So, you know, I think it is fair to say that, you know, to say that we have the right to do it when we have the right to do it, but like, I think it could make some sense at some point to add language in there that says that you know, those individuals, you know, serve in the interim capacity until there's an election or a call for one. But maybe that's not. I don't think that that's necessary, like right now. But we could flag it as a continuous improvement.
Because we'll be revisiting it sooner or later.
Yeah.
Should we move on to that?
Yes.
So there's also a draft application in here.
Yes.
This is not the format we necessarily use. In fact, Meadows already formatted as a web-based
form.
document.
Yeah,
Form,
fantastic. Yep.
So it's pretty simple, but just getting at, you know, information you would need to make a decision.
And so we didn't have one at all? We were just going by emails that people would send?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the policy is new as of last year, so we.
Right. This looks good.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't have anything to add.
Okay, yeah, and, you know, we'll learn a lot this first year. Is there anything else that, also took the opportunity to share with you drafts of calling it survey for committees for the fall and spring check-in.
Yep.
And the way this connects is in the spring, we could ask the committees to talk about their membership needs, if they have any. And that would be a way, something that might inform the appointment process. But this is mainly about, you know, how they organize their thinking and
Yes.
give you the budget requests and
Yes.
things like that.
Well, in the fall is the budget request
Yeah.
one, and the spring is the,
Yeah.
no, that looks very organized.
Good, good. There's also a email form that Meadow will use for reaching out to incumbents who are sort of a special case. And then there's a draft calendar format in there as well. Just threw that in as icing, I guess.
Yeah, that's great.
Great. Much appreciated.
So if happy to take any feedback, if you're happy with this generally, we'd like to get going and start this week with advertising openings.
It's like time, right?
Yeah, so we have about a month,
Right.
at least for those. The calendar calls for the second May meeting to do the individual positions, so animal control officer, things like that, standalone, so they would have a full month to let us know.
Great. Great.
Well, thank you, Meadow and Kari, for committing to this. This is really, really exciting. Really exciting structure. I think takes us, moves us in that direction of creating continuity and having something that hopefully isn't a burden on the administrative side, but helps provide some structure that I think empowers good decision making. So.
I guess a quick question is, now that you've written all this down, does it still seem like a manageable amount of work with the people that we've got? Yeah?
Yeah, no, I think this, to me, this makes it more
manageable.
Yeah.
You know what, yeah.
Before it was sort of a big unknown, it was a black box for me
Yes.
that Barbara was managing.
Okay. All right, that's fabulous.
Thank you.
Yeah, great work.
And yeah, absolutely. Let's get rolling. And we'll just, as you know, I think it makes total sense as if we run into roadblocks or weird questions. You know, Kari, Meadow and I had a good conversation about like what makes sense for outreach, what would be appropriate, what isn't. Where's our role as, you know, staff versus select board to have these facilitate these, and that was a really great conversation. And I would just say, like, as we run into stuff that we feel like needs to have a conversation, let's bring it up and make the adjustment where we need to.
Yeah.
But now we have a way of capturing that, so that's huge. Moving to public comment period.
We do have a couple guests, and I'm hoping
We've got
Michael would identify themselves. Michael, can you hear us and tell us your last name?
And then we've got Rose Pelchuk. Love to hear from Rose. You're on mute. Do you have any public comment, or Greg? Tegan? Nobody?
I have a report to give later, but I was going to save that for reports time.
If you wouldn't mind.
Thank you. You're not invisible.
If you wouldn't mind, I think that'd probably be appropriate to capture it in reports.
Rose.
There's Rose. Hi, Rose. How are you?
I'm good. Jordan, I just feel like I've been missing you lately, so I thought, gee, while you're eating dinner and doing dishes, why don't you just breeze into the select board?
That's something, Rose. That's really something.
Wow.
How could we possibly refuse that?
Don't you have some wood to split?
It's always a pleasure.
Funny. Actually, Greg and I are both here. We were curious about the the curb cut permit at 1487 Lightning Ridge, and I know you already did it, because we were just so curious about it because the little house already has a curb cut. We couldn't figure out why they were getting another curb cut. But by the time I got home from work and logged in, you already finished that. So that's what we were kind of interested in hearing about. But it is nice to see you all, and I certainly appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you, Rose.
Well, thank you, Rose. We miss you as always, and I'd say have a look for the kind of summary of. There was a little bit of discussion about that curb cut, and there'll be no shortage of detail on it, I'm sure, with Meadows minutes. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach back out to Kari or check in with us.
No questions. We were just curious about it. So anyway, I'll let you get on with your meeting. Take care, and I always wish you well.
Have a good night. All right, well, we'll close public comment and move on to highway grants. So the first item, the 2 highway grant on Marshfield Road paving. Sorry.
Yep, so we have 3 bids, and only one of them included reconstructing the road bed on the stretch of road that's in particularly bad shape, where it's basically down to this the base of the road. One of the bids did include some additional material there, but it wasn't the same scope as going deeper. And in talking that through with the road crew, we think that that's important to do, or we'll just end up, not getting the performance out of that section of the road. So
This is the section that's really falling apart.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
And so we asked that bidder, and the other thing is that bidder didn't actually quote, that's all they quoted some additional pieces, but they didn't quote repaving all of Marshfield Road.
Okay.
I asked them to do that and last week, and they didn't get it to me in time.
So you're still awaiting.
So we're still awaiting an actual bid for what we want. And in the meantime, the application for both of these grants is due this week.
Yeah.
And we're not wedded to any the bid that we include as evidence of the grant amount that we're requesting.
Okay.
So what I've done is I'm requesting that, utilizing the highest bid to provide us with the most flexibility. They're both 80%, if we're awarded the grant, 80% from the state, 20% match. And so in this case, using the pipe bid for $92,460, we budgeted $25,000 for this project. And we're also thinking, we'll wait to see what we get for the final quote, but we think that we can self-perform the reconstructing of the road bed, and that would save some money if we think that's going to be an issue, meeting our budget.
So just to be clear, the Pike bid does include the work to rebuild the degraded section?
No, the Pike is the one that includes additional paving material for that section.
Okay.
But it didn't get down into the substrate and compact and redo the road bed, which is what we think is necessary. We didn't ask people to quote it that way.
I see.
But when we reviewed these bids and started talking about the issues, that's when it came out, and we feel that that's the appropriate thing.
So that implies that the Pike bid, which is the one you're talking about using, is not going to actually be enough.
Correct. Well, we think it'll be enough if we self-perform the reconstruction of the road bed.
Okay. So that's what you're proposing to do now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Do we have all the equipment to do that?
Yeah, that was my question.
Like a vibratory roll and all that?
And then we might have to rent the roller.
Okay, all right.
To get good compaction. That's very important. So yeah, so that's the proposal, is to go ahead and apply for the grant using the pipe bid with the expectation that we probably won't utilize that one. Consulted with Toby, we've done this before.
Okay.
Does the grant, like, does the cost associated with the self-performance get rolled up into the grant? Do we get compensated for that?
Yeah. Because it can be in kind.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be our contribution.
Yes. The labor and use of vehicle
Okay.
and potentially the material, you know, or that we apply, we purchase and apply.
And then we could do it for what we budgeted,
Yes, I believe so.
but without Backstreet.
Right, so, yeah, at this point, I'm not recommending Backstreet. One, because of the cost, these came in higher than I was expecting. And we also haven't done any process around, do we actually want to do that? And I know there's at least one resident who has strong feelings against.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be good to get the quotes to see and,
Right.
and provide us that option, but now that it's coming down to decision time.
It's high.
Well, and also, won't it be high, I have one minor question, and
Yeah.
then, won't it be higher if we're not doing this until, we're not proposing to do this?
This one is this year.
This one is this year.
Oh, okay.
We did budget for it in fiscal '27.
Okay, excuse me, okay. All right. Minor thing is just when I open the application PDF, the 92,460 doesn't show. That's just a weird
At the
anomaly?
bottom?
Yes.
That's some flaw in their fillable PDF.
It's freaking me out. It's the kind of
It's
thing.
on both of them.
Yes,
The other
okay.
one is missing a zero.
They're both missing the final digit.
Yeah.
When I click on it, I don't know, it does say save changes and I don't know if it'll,
I tried everything. I
Yeah,
tried
okay.
to put in a period with the cents, and it didn't accept that. And it's a
Maybe
fun-
take out the comma.
I didn't try that. I will, maybe what I'll do is print it off and hand draw in a zero.
so I just
There you go.
boldly clicked on it, it showed all the way, and then I saved it and it worked.
Oh, okay.
So there's something weird in that form,
Okay.
yeah.
I definitely.
So you should do it on the other one too, but that's
And
kind
the
of,
other thing I can do, I know the person that receives these, I can just put in the text of the
Yeah.
email.
Yeah.
strange. Cool. So it's the Stillbrook application that wouldn't be until,
Fiscal 28.
okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions about Marshfield?
I guess just one more re-identification of the self-performance. So so the Pike quote, which we used for the highest value, basically, for
Yeah.
planning purposes, and to get the grant in, is just for paving. And the structure of the grant would be an 80% covering. So I guess if we added whatever our costs would be for the reconstruction of roadbed, that could get in part lumped into the 80%, and then the balance would be in-kind recognition of labor attributed to the project. So potentially
That's how it works with other
we wouldn't
grants.
have we wouldn't
state
have out of
highway
pocket.
grants.
Yeah.
Where they're basically paying us to do the work,
Mm-hmm.
which is really helpful. That's how those grant and aid projects
Yeah.
work. And it's our labor and the use of our vehicles, which are things that we budget for. So that's basically just free money
Yeah.
with no cash out of pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Additional anyway, only what we're committed to already.
A few meetings ago, we had somebody to talk about remediation below where the culvert comes out.
Yes.
Washouts.
Yeah.
And I noticed where that culvert is, there's problems with the pavement there as well. And so is we gonna do any rebuilding when the road is taken up, or how are we gonna, something moving under there, unless that was torn up and put back and, it sank some since that was done.
Yeah, I'm not sure the history of that.
Drove over recently, I saw those
Yeah, I noticed that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that, I can't remember what so the Regional Planning Commission is funding that project. And I'll have to ask them. I know that we were gonna have them do their work before we
Exactly.
obviously, but I don't know if they intended to redo that culvert entirely.
I don't know.
I mean, certainly we'll coordinate that.
Okay, all right.
But if there's an opportunity, I mean, it would be great if they wanted to, upgrade that culvert and then make sure that they compact that and do that properly.
That was part of what they were doing, wasn't it? Can't remember.
I think that the culvert that they plan to replace is the one on Tegan's driveway, and they were
Over
talking
there.
about putting a pad below that crossroad culvert, so that the water that's coming out of there is not just scouring out the soil, but is,
But their work does have to be done before.
yes.
Okay.
So on this particular grant, it would be, an action would be approving the application as structured, and then we'd be hearing later on,
Yes.
making a decision about, awarding relative to bidding and
awarding the bid, yeah,
relative
exactly.
to feedback
Yeah.
also
So this
from the
is
road
the
crew
first
on.
step.
Okay. And it sounds like we've got some consensus around taking that approach. So can I get a motion to authorize Kari to submit the application for the Class 2 highway grant for the repaving of Marshfield Road as discussed?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Next item is the structures grant for Stillbrook Road bridge repair.
Right, so remember, this is a bridge that has some structural issues. Du Wolf has been the engineer on this, and they did the design for it and an estimate. And so we're using that for a structures grant application, also due on Wednesday. Also an 80%, 20% match, and but we did not budget for this one, so we're just getting in the queue. If we were awarded the grant, then we would hopefully utilize that and plan for that in next year's budget.
In the next budget.
Okay. And this bridge did not get very much traffic.
Correct. But remember, this is the bridge, I mean, I'm sure we've talked about this, that has had sinkholes on the edges
Yeah.
because of the issue with the abutment.
It's the abutments that are a big problem.
Yeah, it's a challenging one to contemplate putting this many resources
Yeah.
into something with such a limited use.
Right.
That's what I can say about that.
Okay.
But, it is our bridge.
Yes, and people do use it.
Yeah.
Is the road still open at the other end, or it goes up to Max Square or not?
It's a class 4. I don't know what the state of it is.
It is not a road at that end. It disappears into the woods. It becomes kind of a footpath, then it pops out on someone's cornfield. And if you go through their cornfield and out their driveway, you get to a loose road.
But you can access it as a footpath off of Loose Road, is it?
You come from Loose Road, you have to go, you turn onto that driveway that heads down toward 14. It takes you to his cornfield. You can skirt around the edge of the cornfield, and then it takes some work to pick out the path. Eventually you can find like a footpath that goes down the hill. I did it one time. But it's not a road at this. I mean, legally it's a road, but the actual infrastructure is not a road.
The state considers it impassable or untraveled.
Okay, so just to clarify, is there one property owner that uses this bridge?
2.
Two, okay. All right.
And I mean, it's a piece of infrastructure that needs maintenance. I think doing the due diligence of applying for a grant, we've chosen not to perform approved work in the past.
We sure have.
And
Yeah, no, I have no objection to applying for the.
any of the other bridge projects are gonna be a lot more expensive, so, so, you know, as much as, it seems like effort that could be potentially wasted if we turn it down, to the extent that we have an application prepared and we have an analysis from the engineers, I think that there is some reason, to submit it. And if we determine that in the budgeting process, it's not tenable, for other reasons, then.
No, that all makes sense to me. And Kari, I fixed the estimated project amount using Barbara's trick, so it's.
Awesome. What was the trick again?
You click on it and then
Here it
click
shows the
save
whole-
changes.
But who knows if, like, when you, I mean, it might just
I
be.
know. Well, it's all in the, yeah. Anyway, good luck.
You just have to add 2 more zeros and then you save it and then it's fine. Okay, well, it sounds like there's some consensus around that approach. So I'd like to entertain a motion to authorize Kari to submit the application for the structures grant as prepared.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. The next is approving a letter of intent to participate in the state FY27 municipal road grant in aid program. This is more of an annual formality, I believe.
Yeah, we intend to always participate just for the reason we talked about, where we can perform in kind for our match, and it's been really valuable. We were up on Marshfield Road 2 years ago, County Road last year, and we were talking earlier that they plan on doing a portion of Beacon Brook this year.
Great.
And we already have our allocation, 33,500.
Great.
Great. So can I get a motion to approve the letter of intent to participate in the state's FY27 municipal roads grant in aid program?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. And
Back on time.
we were back on time at 7:45, Bill, so.
No, it's just 8 o'clock.
Well, now we're a minute late. Select board rules and procedures.
Okay, here we go.
Here we go. Dig in.
2-8, Bill can't talk.
Bill's used his allotted time for commentary. So my apologies, I had adopted all of the edits that were redlined from our previous discussion. And then forgot to just do the work that I did on time and post it, so then it was late again. But the draft that was uploaded to the folder today is the rules and procedures with all of the changes edited. The only
Oh, it's here.
Yeah, it is there. It was there this afternoon, thanks to Kari's very helpful reminder. So to be fully transparent, I did make some modifications to the language where it just wasn't adopting the changes because there was overlaying, but I didn't make any substantive changes to the intent, and then just tried to get some formatting stuff cleaned up that was that it seemed to be struggling with, but.
Wasn't the issue about the 15-minute public comment period not being so specific? About 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Did that one not?
I mean, the public participation, you mean?
Yeah.
It just says time will be
It's okay.
allotted.
Time will be allotted.
It removes the 15 minutes.
The chair may set a reasonable time limit per speaker.
It does what we talked about with, which is that it removed the 15, being specific about it being 15 minutes
It's number 2.
every time,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reality is that it's going to be 15 minutes, and we just wanted to give ourselves a little bit of flexibility should we need it, and
Yeah.
then, more importantly, commit to the language of
Respect and decorum.
and
Yeah.
and also not using the whole 15 or dedicating the whole 15
Right.
minutes to
Right.
to all public comment if there's just one, which is how the language currently functions, and is
Right.
kind of problematic and puts us in a position of having to buck our procedures if we'd like to carry on with the meeting, should that time not be allotted or not need to be allotted for a given subject.
Couple of small nits.
Please.
Under agendas, number 5, did you mean to say and or the East Calais General Store? There's an or there. Did you want that or to be there, or is the store there always included?
Oh.
I think
The
it's,
East Calais Post Office or the East Calais General Store.
I think it's historically been one or the other and not necessarily both.
Are you sending the agendas to be posted at both the store and the post office?
In the past, like I can reach out to Jess at the store, but Jess doesn't answer email just based on her schedule. And it's really difficult to do that sometimes. So Mary has been kind of the point person for this and has just taken it upon herself to post a copy at the post office and the East Calais General Store. So I'm reaching out to Mary, and I'm reaching out to the postmaster of East Calais, just in case that Mary needs a backup. But really, Mary's my only contact with those 2 locations. And I could specify specifically that it needs to be posted in both locations, but I'm only really contacting Mary for that.
I'm just asking that, because the other stores were included as. And a public participation, number 1. Members of the public shall. Do you want to make that a may, or are you wedded to shall?
Say that
Participation,
public-
number 1.
Members of the public shall be afforded reasonable opportunity. Want to be may?
Well, having done the Secretary of State's most recently updated training on open meeting law, they presented that as a obligation to allow. I actually found their language a little problematic because it kind of deviates a little bit from other like VLTC guidance on that, but I won't get into the weeds on it. But I think that in this context, it would be most appropriate to just say shall be provided,
Reasonable.
reasonable.
And then reasonable is doing a lot.
And then it's doing a lot of work there.
But I mean, yes, that is why we're here and why we invite people here, because we
Yeah.
often want to hear what they think.
And number 7, this last dot is to order the constable, of course, which we don't have, but I guess that's just someday we may.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's all I have.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we're maintaining the position, so.
Were there any other comments or modifications?
No.
All right. Can
Appreciate
I?
your work, Jordan.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And we can either print it out here and sign it, or we can. Oh, you have it. Perfect. Thank you, Kari. And thanks for the patience, everyone.
Yeah, and we're 2 minutes ahead of schedule.
Not me this time.
Administrative items. So we've got the approval of our March 23rd meeting minutes, which were prepared by Meadow and posted to the shared drive. Has everybody had the opportunity to review those?
Yes, thank you, Meadow. I did have a couple of things on the minutes. these are good. I like the level of explanation. And I just had a couple of items on page 1 and 2 under the school board check-in. I think the district is the WCUUSD, right?
Yes.
Not the WCSD.
Yes.
So just to
Washington
give them their full name.
Washington County.
Central.
Washington Central.
Washington Central
Unified Union School
Union
District.
Unified, one or the other.
WCUUSD.
Yeah.
That's
Correct.
Okay.
And that was at the bottom of 1 and the top of 2, I think it was used
Perfect.
twice.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. And then on page 3, there's a reference to, under the, where is it? Under the public comments, second paragraph, the Green Mountain Power, WWEC. So those are 2 different power providers.
Okay.
And I think we discussed both of them, so Green Mountain
Just-
Power
yeah,
and Washington Electric Cooperative
Yeah.
Okay.
Good catch.
have their own processes. And then I just had a question on page 5. Under the town clerk's report, which is almost at the end, Meadow reported on dog registrations and overweight permits. I'm like, what is
I
that?
did not apply for one.
What should I do? I don't know what that is.
Those are truck overweight
Okay.
permits.
All right.
To operate while the roads are posted.
Thank you. So is that what we call them, overweight permits?
Mhm.
Really?
Indeed.
Not overweight vehicle permits, overweight truck permits?
I think
Just
just-
overweight permits?
That's all that was discussed.
Okay, my question has been answered. Thank you very much.
I have a small thing on page 2, bottom last sentence there. The enforcement matter that John was referring to was with the Chittenden County Solid Waste District. So I just want to make sure that it's not
Attributed to Central
attributed
Vermont.
to Central Vermont, in
Okay.
case they, whatever.
Got it.
But it should be whatever that acronym is.
CCSWD.
Thank you. That's why you're doing that job in committee.
I can also just write it out. It's clearer. I appreciate the note.
I didn't have any. I really enjoy the format.
Yeah, I thought it was
I still
strong.
continue to be concerned about the amount of time that it could take, but that's the amount of time that it would take me. So as long as you think that that's a manageable process,
Last time was more manageable. It was a shorter amount of context. I just kind of truncated it a little bit more.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if that feels like enough detail, then I'll just kind of go with the same.
Yeah.
I know
that
Meadow
was-
has these ready the same day.
Wow.
Should be ready later tonight. or
I'm basically
tomorrow.
just, as much as I possibly can, typing out everything that people say, and then I go through and I just make myself a little ethnographic summary of it. It's like, yeah.
Well, I think the tenor of the communication summary is very appropriate, and that's I think what I
Okay.
appreciate the most, as opposed to a straight, verbatim.
You don't want to see the raw files. They're
No.
17 pages of.
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
dialogue.
No, this level of detail is just right.
Okay.
Good.
Great. Well, can I get a motion to accept?
So moved.
As amended.
As amended?
As
Yep.
amended.
Anyone else?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Board orders were posted to the share drive by Kari. Hopefully everyone's had the opportunity to review those. Were there any questions from the board?
I had a little question. I know it's kind of weird.
Mm-mm.
Sorry. But I want to know why we had a marriage license return.
No, it's a think of tax return, it's a form that we're filling out and sending to the state. The state gets a portion of the fee.
Okay, thank you.
It's true with dog licenses.
Yeah, okay. Someone returned their driver's license.
Gotcha.
We're not giving your money back.
Didn't work out.
30 days, same as cash.
That's a buyer beware.
States making all kinds of gross over, that training that I attended for the open meeting, on the slide from the Secretary of State, referred to the Development Review Board as the Developmental Review Board. And I wanted to send a note to the Secretary of State and say, I'm pretty sure we're not spinning up committees to do developmental review, but if that's what we're supposed to be doing, we'll add it to the list. Well, thank you for having a look at that. Can I get a motion to accept and sign the board orders as posted to the share drive?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And we've done the letter and reports.
One question on the letter that I forgot to ask earlier. Since it came out of a thing at town meeting, do we want to post it publicly anywhere, or do we just want to send it?
I think we just send it.
Okay.
And exists as a record. The request was for it to be a communication from the select board to the superintendent, so.
Okay.
It'll be in the minutes.
It'll be in the minutes.
I think that's sufficient.
Works for me.
Thank you. Tegan, thank you for waiting patiently.
I'm still here. Just a few things. The laptops that Kari and Meadow and I use were all due for replacement given the RB Tech cycle that they recommend. So we ordered those over a month ago, and then they were on back order, and then there were more issues. And finally today, the day of all days, Michael Moreland came and brought us 3 new laptops for us to be using, which is very exciting for us. And also you all want to start thinking about what to do with the 3 existing laptops, we can have that conversation at any time. The other sort of bigger thing on my list right now is liquor licenses. I received the payment and applications for Maple Corner Store to renew all of its liquor and tobacco licenses. And the other request that has come through is Charlotte Hannah wants to have beer and wine at Scott's Service in May, and she is working with Jess at the East Calais store, who has a catering liquor license. So I was going to proceed with approving that as long as you all didn't have any issues. That's the event that's going to be at the town hall on May 2nd.
We looked at the town hall usage policy, and it said that either the select board has to approve, or the person that they've delegated that responsibility has to approve the use of alcohol. So I don't think you have to.
That's the only limitation.
So Tegan.
And we have to have insurance,
Okay.
which Jess does.
Okay.
Other than that, it's been a fairly kind of a downtime of the year for the clerk position. One thing that has been going on is NIMRIC is moving forward with mailing out everyone's newly assessed values at the end of this week, I believe. And then they'll start doing hearings and information for people. So I think communication to the town office is going to get a little busier. And so I've been trying to keep up with the listers. They've been in the office a lot, working through things, both because the grand list is closed for the year and because of this reappraisal. So I'm just trying to make sure I'm keeping up to speed on what they are working on so that I can respond to people when they come with questions. I've never been around for a reappraisal. We haven't done one in quite a long time, so I'm not really sure how this is going to go. And I just want to be available and as informed as possible as this starts up with people getting their values.
Yeah, thanks, Tegan.
Have we paid NIMRIC yet?
Oh, we pay them every month. We're almost done.
Yeah.
$4,400 a month.
We still have another payment to go.
A couple.
Probably.
Okay.
Did
Yeah,
anyone here done a reappraisal before? Like, Do we know what our role is in it?
Oh,
None.
yeah.
There could be, I guess, if there's going to be somebody appeals, but I think Nemrick is contracted to be kind of the initial step of that appeal process. That's how it kind of played out in Montpelier, and then should you engage, you have to engage at that point, and there's a judgment of whether or not it's it's founded, and if it is and needs to get appealed to this governing body, then I imagine that
There's actually going to be a couple of rounds of appeals. One is a more general, where people there'll be, I think, probably a presentation of here's what the information is telling you. Here's, frequently asked questions sort of thing. And if people aren't satisfied with that, they can sign up for a formal hearing. And Nemrick will be there, the listers will be there. And if it's not resolved at that level, that's where it goes to the BCA. And I saw, I think you signed up for that VLCT training.
Yeah.
Hopefully others will as well. Because that's, a formal process where you don't necessarily have expertise in this. So
Yeah.
But we'll see. That's even necessary.
Thanks, Egan.
Yep.
Kari?
Yeah, so the first thing was we put together, we were talking about what documents to post for public access for these meetings, and we put together a packet that included everything except for my memo and the rules of procedure, which weren't ready yet, and Meadow made it into a PDF and posted it to the website in a newly formatted.
I really like
It's
that.
fancy.
Nicely done.
Yeah, well done. Appreciate the transparency. Significant
Yeah,
leaps forward.
That's going, it's providing everything basically.
I wonder if for a while we can put a link to that page or maybe you already did, in the calendar event. You can put more information in the calendar event, just because people are used to going to the calendar, and the agendas at one point were posted there.
So I think the limitation there for the Catalyst content management system is you can only put.
Is it only files?
One thing, like a file.
Yeah.
I might be able to link to a page in the actual site, in which case I could link to just that page, but then I wouldn't also be able to link the agenda in the calendar. But I can do some investigation on that.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of ways so people
I
know it's
drive
there.
people to that page, because it's got everything you need.
Right.
Before and after.
So it does have all the board orders. That's what I hadn't gone through.
Yeah, that's our
To the
intention, is
end.
to put everything in there.
Everything.
Yep.
Except for executive session.
Yeah.
And for now, my memo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We will have to, be thoughtful about whether there's, we'll have to be careful not to post anything that shouldn't be posted.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds like that's working.
Yeah.
Also, I attended last week's fire department meeting. It's on my notes. We talked about comparative costs. It is pretty tricky to analyze those things. One thing I didn't include is that there was a note in that document, but I didn't realize that Marshfield and Plainfield are seeing those increases each year, 20 and 15% each year during the length of the contract, which I think is 3 years for them. So they are making an honest attempt to catch them up. So that's good news.
Okay.
They got a ways to go, obviously. The other thing we spent most of our time, I see Rose and Greg are still here, they were both at the meeting, is the capital budget. And it still shows a big deficit about 3 years out, and that'll need to be addressed, especially because there was discussion of making a commitment to the next truck sooner than later, like within the next year is what they're thinking, because of the lead times still being 2 to 3 years for fire trucks, and also the crazy inflation that they're seeing. They'd like to lock in a price sooner than later. And just seeing the way that capital budget is, I expressed a strong concern about the towns contributing to that. So I think they understand that, and they're going to plan a recommendation for their August meeting. Not necessarily resolve it then, but start the conversation about it then.
So you were speaking on behalf of Calais, but is East Montpelier also feeling the same way?
I think so. I think so. You know, because these are big numbers, right? You know, large amounts.
Well, $700,000, can they do a bond, or do we have to do a bond, both towns together? How does?
They could borrow.
Okay.
I don't know if they can bond, because they don't have the same constituency, right?
Right.
They're contracting with the town, not the voters. So I'm not sure exactly how that would work. But they have access to low-cost capital, I think.
I think another area, you know, I've really appreciated their commitment to like adding more transparency and structure to this, because like it's evolved quite a bit even in the last like 3 years, and again, it's a great, good faith, continuous improvement effort on their part. I think another area of like opaqueness is the reserve funds that they have. It's my understanding that they've got like a pretty healthy balance in those funds, that they have done a good job managing and growing, so that when they need to, they have the resources available for significant capital investments. I wonder if it's appropriate for us to ask, like, that in that capital planning document that they also, you know, have
It's actually in there.
Oh, is it? I missed that.
It's at the bottom.
Oh.
And they're planning, it's the insurance, the ambulance insurance revenue.
Oh.
And the interesting thing about our arrangement is they get to keep all of that, and then it goes straight into their highway, or their capital equipment fund. And that's what they're using to pay for most things, like when they came and proposed purchasing the breathing apparatus, they were just paying out of their fund. And that revenue's been growing, and you're right, it's a significant resource for them. But what this budget shows is that's not going to allow them to pay cash for a truck, for a new fire truck. So something has to happen. I would advocate that they finance something like that over many years. Right. And not ask us to contribute, but see what they.
Well, and I think like this kind of comes back to like our own capital planning, but and utilization of like the bond bank. So we have like this incentive from the state to like form these interlocals, and if we already have one for this, and it's a perfect example of it. But then through doing that, we open up the possibility, I think, to bond for something like that through like the bond bank in a way that is going to have far more favorable rates than like even us going out and trying to buy our own truck and getting our own rates, which are going to be beholden to the market interest rates, as opposed to something that could be more favorable from the town. I'm starting that conversation with them, saying like, listen, it would make sense to potentially consider doing this as a joint bond measure potentially.
Yeah.
And trying to get access to much more.
The fire station was bonded.
Yeah.
I think East Montpelier and Calais carry the note.
Yep.
And we're making payments on it. I don't know exactly how the fire department would, but they may be able to utilize the bond bank and not call it a bond in the same sense, and still get lower rates.
I think
because it's a municipality.
Yeah.
I just don't know how the legal requirements are, but anyway, the other thing that we talked about was getting their budget information earlier, and both of the departments were there, both said that they can do that. Woodbury said it would be a draft because they can't finalize things until later in the fall, but they said a draft is certainly possible, which would be helpful, because it's 15% of our budget, and knowing that earlier is better than December. So that was that, and the last thing is I'm going to the VLCT Legislative Advocacy Day, and I've offered to testify. I want to make the case for maintaining state highway aid. I just really think it's like a core value, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We start to see the roads deteriorate,
Yeah.
which they are. I mean, it really strikes at sort of our identity as
Yeah.
a rural state. And I want to try to make that case, but and share our data and our story. But if you have other messages you want me to share while I'm there, let me know.
When is that day?
It's the 23rd, so it's 2 weeks.
Great.
No, that's next week, actually.
Next
Thursday.
Thursday.
Thank you for.
Appreciate you doing that.
Yeah. Thank you for the update on the fire department. Does anybody else have anything else to
I just
report?
wanted to check in,
Yep.
thank you, on the tax sale question. We have one that's a resolution and the other is still hanging fire out there. We don't.
Yeah, there's
have
one
any
where we
response.
received no response at all.
So Sandra continues to.
Yeah, we're proceeding. Sandra said these folks have been in this position before and have come through in the 11th hour.
Okay.
Not that it went to sale, because even after it goes to sale, they have 12
Yeah.
months to
Yeah.
redeem it, but that they have made payment, full payment in the 11th hour before the sale.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Okay, thank you. And the other thing I wanted to just circle back to was the beaver situation.
Yes.
Where are we in terms of trying to think through an overall policy or sense of priorities or hierarchy? You were mentioning something, Jordan. I thought last time we talked about going to the ordinance, the ordinance advisory committee, and I don't know. I mean, I'd like to just sort of have a sense of who's figuring out what happened, what the town's policies or priorities are for.
I offered to work on it in the next couple weeks and bring you something.
A town policy on how we want to treat our beavers.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know how far I'll get, but I offered to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, I think from at least my perspective, this is kind of an information gathering and I guess having line of sight on what potentially we could use the ordinance advisory committee to do that. It would be the forum for that kind of like a policy review. Neil was here in the last meeting to potentially have the Conservation Commission weigh in on that, but even that, I think it would be appropriate for it to look like a gathering of information and drafts of considerations or for consideration. And then I think when we have a scope of content to review, we can, as a select board, decide if it's a concise enough scope of work that we can form our own without kicking it to the ordinance advisory. So I guess at this point, the charge from my perspective would be to try to grab examples of them. I know Craig.
Can I chime in for a sec?
Yep.
This has been done in the past, and I'm pretty sure I have a folder in ClerkShare of other people's beaver policies, so I can make sure Kari has access to that.
Perfect.
Thank you, Tegan.
And yeah, I know. I think.
Can't believe this is the first.
I know Craig has submitted one, so there's at least one draft somewhere, and I imagine it's captured in Tegan's folder. So.
Okay, thank you.
So if that seems to make good sense to everybody else, then, yeah. Meeting adjourned.
Woohoo!
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.